What's DeFi 2.0? Where are the best yields in crypto? And how do you catch a vibe? All this and more on... I'm Luke, and this is TLDR, where we catch you up on all the important narratives and headlines from around Bankless this week. As always, there are going to be links down in the show notes so you can do a deeper dive into any of these topics. So before we start, I want to shout out our sponsor, POOLTOGETHER, which just announced POOLTOGETHER V4. The no-loss DeFi lottery has just leveled up by merging all the pools together into one big prize pot. And the POOLTOGETHER treasury has allocated $1 million to the prize pools to celebrate the new launch. Dive into the pool at bankless.cc/pooltogether. So Rune Christensen, the founder of MakerDAO, came on the podcast this week to explore two big statements he's made over the last couple weeks. The first is a technical case for maximalism. The TLDR is that over a long time horizon, only one layer 1 blockchain can survive. It seems impossible to bridge your assets from one layer 1 to another in a trustless way, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose of all of this. So this ties into the protocol sink thesis, where resources will gravitate towards and orbit around the most decentralized, credibly neutral protocol.
If you just think coming from the perspective of, I'm going to make a blockchain, I'm going to enable DeFi, I'm going to make sort of a blockchain business, blockchain economic ecosystem, and all these things, right? Like the number one thing you're always thinking about is, like, if you're trying to optimize for a good blockchain, a good environment for people to build, the main thing people care about, which is why they're using DeFi and why they're using blockchain, is interconnectedness, essentially, right? Like this interoperability, right? This synergy, permissionless innovation, money Legos. This is kind of the entire value proposition, right? So so there has to be like a really compelling reason to sort of deliberately exclude that, which then becomes this sort of this L1 narrative, essentially, right? Which is this idea that you can be a self-sovereign, dominant blockchain, essentially, that can have its own ecosystem.
The other part of this conversation covers the environment, and that was also the topic of Market Monday this week, fixing climate change. We talk all the time about programming our values into our money, and it's time to put that to the test. Rune argues that we can and should be making DAI into clean money, accepting collateral and prioritizing investments that demonstrate an alignment with sustainability. For a community like MakerDAO, which has solidified its spot in DeFi, it seems ripe to begin pursuing the greater good. For projects in general, I think, a good rule of thumb is that first comes growth and then comes purpose. While the more OG protocols are solidifying their place and seeking purpose, a new crop of DeFi projects are exploding into their growth phase. Recently termed DeFi 2.0, this new class of primitive seems to be emerging with some shared attributes, like an emphasis on openness and DAOs, really DeFi native, really composable, and also risky. On State of the Nation this week, we had Jai, the co-founder of Rari Capital, on. Rari Capital is one of these DeFi 2.0 projects, and we covered it in an article last week, but basically, Rari is a protocol for money markets, so that's lending and borrowing on any DeFi asset. During the episode, Rari actually crossed 1 billion in total value locked, which was really exciting.
To me, this whole Zoomerfi/DeFi 2.0 phenomenon is really just that, like, we have these risk-averse protocols. We have this risk-averse foundation. And what would Rari be if it didn't really already have assets like DAI or other money markets out there, right? So it actually is the time towards leaning in towards like some of these riskier ventures, because as of just a few minutes ago, Rari Capital crossed $1 billion locked in DeFi. So you know that something is working here.
Wait, it did?
It did, yeah. Ryan,
let me show it on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
David, do you have some sound effects for this? This is pretty momentous.
Oh gosh, I don't think I do. Oh no, it's only music. It's only music. I don't have the right sound effects. But Jay, congratulations, my man, on crossing $1 billion in DeFi. So clearly the strategy is working out. How's it feel to have $1 billion in the smart contracts?
Scary.
Good answer after we just discussed risk.
The riskiness of DeFi 2.0, however, is not to be slept on, and a massive liquidation event hit the Olympus DAO pool on Rari earlier this week. This sector is an experiment, but these platforms have seen tremendous growth, while the traditional DeFi blue chips have certainly been much quieter. An increasingly loud space in crypto have been DAOs, but for the amount of energy and hype surrounding DAOs, the tooling and infrastructure is quite primitive. The business model and internal structures are also brand new and experimental. Our resident frog monkey argues how the next unlock for DAOs is decentralizing capital flows. So the idea is that not everything runs through a treasury department or a centralized hub of resources. Instead, you distribute out those resources to a set of interconnected nodes and let the power of a network take over. And suddenly, you turn from a more centralized linear flow of capital to a decentralized web of relationships. And what you're seeing here happening in real time is Metcalfe's law. The more connections you have in a network, the resilience and efficiency of that network increase at an exponential rate. So crypto gaming is here, but it's also still definitely on its way. This newer sector is exploding, so we brought on some key community members from Axie Infinity and Illuvium to talk about where we are and where crypto gaming is headed.
So here's the way I take a look at it. DeFi is the gamification of finance. GameFi is the financialization of games. These are actually no different. You're just coming at it from kind of the opposite ends. And when you combine them, what you have is basically play to earn and the metaverse, where if you watch Ready Player One, people own their assets across different game experience, buying these assets and owning them and then taking them basically to their whole virtual lives with them. So I think they're just opposite ends of like the same outcome.
What I liked most about this conversation is how positive sum it feels. This doesn't feel like a competitive environment. The core builders in this space just want to see an entire economy built out and flourishing. The passion here is not about making the most successful game at the expense of users and at the expense of competition. It's about shifting the paradigm, creating a world where the lines are blurred between gamers and developers, where earning and owning are real things in the digital world, removing boundaries and incentivizing growth and collaboration. Other emerging sectors are NFTs and scaling, and both of these are happening in parallel. Layer 1 Ethereum will increasingly become a hub for bundles of transactions instead of individual ones. So your NFTs will likely live on Layer 2s down the line. And it's worth learning about how to get ahead of the curve and figuring out how NFTs work on Layer 2s. This feels like a fractal of the idea of modular blockchains, which we've been talking a ton about lately. The idea here is that we separate out different layers on the blockchain for different purposes. We have the consensus or security layer on layer 1, Ethereum mainnet, and then we use rollups to build out the user aggregation front end layer. This week, we also covered where to find the best yields in DeFi. Things like Curve and Yearn, Mstable, and Barnbridge. Oh, but where are the hottest yields in DeFi? Well, not gonna make it, Luke. DeFi's hottest yields are... Wait, but what? I didn't catch any of that. Oh, turns out, gotta be a premium subscriber for the hottest yields in DeFi. But I don't want to be a premium subscriber. Well, not gonna make it, Luke. Looks like you're not gonna make it. Subscribe to Bankless, get the best yields. I don't make the rules. And finally, on Layer 0 this week, we had on Metacartel core member Pet3r Pan. And if you remember, Pet3r Pan wrote the Before Bitcoin series, which David can't get through without crying, so it's probably worth a read. And this conversation covered a lot more, going through his journey into crypto and being an early pioneer of the DAO space. And when it boils down to it, a DAO is basically just a vibe. DAOs introduce a lot of complexity into an organization, and it's honestly much easier to understand what's going on if you just try to catch the vibe rather than, I don't know, analyzing a hierarchy chart or going through a bulleted list. And with vibes, instead of having a list of rules or some objective rundown or bureaucratic small print, you just have a feeling. Vibes encompass work, play, culture, incentives, and compress them into a type of shared knowledge, a harmony between those sharing the vibe. A vibe is an understanding, and although you can try to talk about it and try to define it, eventually a vibe is something that is unspoken, deep, subjective and internalized. Vibes are a good way to conceptualize the complicated nature of DAOs. Instead of trying to learn every detail, read every word of a white paper, every interaction, just learn the vibe, learn the principles. And when you are like coasting on top of this vibe, you can start doing some pretty cool things. So with that, I want to quickly shout out our sponsors, MATCHA, ALCHEMIX, Ledger, and ARBITRUM. Vibes are being built on top of these projects, and also this video wouldn't be possible without them. So thanks a lot. And finally, none of this is financial advice. ETH is risky, DeFi is risky, are vibes risky? I don't know. But we are headed west. This is the frontier. It's not for everyone, but we are glad you are with us on the Bankless journey. See you next time.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.